Well, why don't we jump in? We've got a good group and get started. I'm actually going to pass it to our director, Amy Lemley, to kick us off.
All right. Well, you may have noticed we brought the meeting down from an hour to a half an hour. So we are going to be fast and furious. We're going to work through things and let's jump right in. But I'm delighted. We've got 35 people here. You know, the challenge of this kind of work is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it's all the way through till July 1st. And so, you know, grew to 37. We're just delighted about the level of commitment that people have across the state to protect these programs. We know together we work to establish them, and together we're going to protect them. So we wish we didn't have to do it, but that's just the way life is. So let's jump right in, and I will tell you about what we're going to talk about today. And I think we'll have a productive conversation. This is our agenda, chocked full. Looking forward to getting into it. And as Simone said, it's always balancing making, you know, with a big group, making it interactive, but also kind of getting the information across pretty quickly. But I think we've done a great job together as a group so far. And so I think without further ado, I'll just jump into that first item. We have reached 102 organizations on the coalition letter. So one is, I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to send a heart because I think that's awesome. And I think everyone deserves a lot of credit. These aren't just, you know, random organizations. I mean, these are state leaders. These are organizations that are true blue organizations. You serve people, you represent people. It is an impressive group. We've got 112 young adults. We put the call out, had a very strong response. So I want to thank every organization who shared that link with young people they serve. You know, I think we're off to a very strong start. I was so heartened. I got so many emails back from young people. They're ready to roll. They're ready to get busy. They won't benefit from either of these policy changes, most of them, but they want their siblings and younger people to benefit from them. It's just really, you know, we know that that's where the power is, but it's an important reminder. We blasted out to our Critical Needs and Opportunity Fund, which serves young people, and got so many exciting emails back. Again, they're ready to make a difference. But let's keep building. We hope to get to 250 by today. We didn't quite get there, but let's keep pressing. And the link is in the chat. Simone, I don't know if you could chat that. And then maybe chat where the letter is, because the letter is, you know, again, this is a strong group standing together, shoulder to shoulder, asking the governor to revisit this decision in his May revise. So that is that. Next one, Simone, if you could tick through. So each kind of meeting we have, we're going to talk about what the big thrust is until the next meeting. And the big thrust is we've been having all these calls with different people, and probably the most persuasive call that we had was a call with a very high level person who said, it's not enough to have legislators support this. You need to ask them to go from support to lead. You guys need a group of 15 to 20 legislators who say this is a top priority. It's not just a nice to have, it's a must have. It's kind of a over my dead body kind of thing. And so fortunately, we have, you know, a very, very strong champion who established much of this in Phil Ting. So Phil Ting is writing a letter, and he is going to be asking his colleagues in the assembly to join onto that letter and to submit that letter to the Assembly Budget Committee. We are also asking Senator Durazo, who was the Senate side champion, to do the same. And so really to getting a collection of members of the Assembly and members of the Senate to submit a letter. We have our letter. We're outside stakeholders. They're the elected officials. They're the ones with the formal authority to submit their letter to the Budget Committee. Mr. Ting is reviewing that letter as we speak. He's looking at it, kind of figuring out, you know, the right tone. They know how that works. And then we're reaching out to Senator Durazo, you know, to kind of see if this is going to be possible on the Senate side. She was a tremendous champion. Actually, of all of our 103 coalition members, the most number of coalition members are from Senator Durazo's district. So we know she gets it, and we know she cares. And so really, it's just a matter of really asking. So what you have here in this link is a sheet. And so what I'm going to do is try and show, yeah, there we go. Thanks, Andy. If we can open that sheet together, and I'm just going to walk you through it to share what it is.
You want me to, I can share the screen and show it. Do you want me to do that?
That'd
Okay.
be great. Thank you, Sven. We love Google Sheets at J-Bay, probably a little bit too much. We're addicted, but they're so handy. You can't stop it. So if you see the sheet, Simone's going to share it. It's got a few different tabs. The first is our 103 organizations. Who are we? By each organization, we have who your senator and your assembly member is based on your headquarters. We know many of you are, like a county, for example, has multiple senators and assembly members, or Aspirinet, for example. I think it's in like 10 or 11 or 15 counties. And so, this was a start to get the ball rolling. But what you have here is your assembly or senate district, your elected official, the chief of staff. And that's the person, you can see they all have the same naming conventions, the first and last name at assembly.ca.gov. And so what we want to do is we want to email these people and ask them to join these letters. And we want to start that process by asking them to talk to us, to share kind of what's going on with these budget cuts, to help them understand how it's impacting people in their district. Because legislators they care about a lot. I mean, the breadth of their caring is tremendous. And but they have kind of a responsibility to take care of home first. And so they're very receptive to hearing from their constituents. So we've drafted kind of a sample email. Dear person's chief of staff name, I'm a constituent of either senator or assembly member, asking the senator to prioritize foster youth in the state budget. I'm part of a coalition asking for these programs to be maintained. Is there a time I can discuss this with the senator or a member of the staff? Now, practically speaking, it's going to be with a member of the staff, but that is very, very good too. Don't feel like, oh, if I can't speak to the senator or the assembly member, they trust their staff members. They listen to their staff members. They care about what their staff members think. And their staff members, particularly because you are constituents, are going to report this back to the boss. And so when you get these meetings, what we want you to do is, when you schedule them, put Simone on the scheduling request. Either she or Cody Van Velden, one of our youth advocates, will be able to attend the meeting. And so we want to do that because we don't want anyone to feel, many of you are, very professional advocates. You do this full time. We have a very diverse coalition of people. And so if you don't want that, no problem. But if you do want it, we want to be there to support you. We want to be there to encourage you and to help in any way. So it's really your call. I mean, do what you want to do. But we do want to be here to support you if you'd like that. Now, when you get the meeting scheduled, if you go to the next tab, Simone, is the talking points. We've gotten feedback that, guess what? We're being too technical. This is a downfall of us here. They're like, keep it simple, J-Bay. And so we took those two really nice technical talking points and we merged them into two fact sheets into one more of a talking point sheet. And so that's what this is. It's really, we were saying too much about the programs and not enough to making the argument. And so that's, when you actually get these meetings, these are what we're getting feedback are the most salient points. Focusing on homelessness, focusing that this is preventing chronic homelessness. Can you pop over to those a minute, Simone? Focusing the federal leverage. Everyone we're talking to is saying, focus on that federal leverage. You cut this, you lose 29 million in federal dollars. Focus on this. This is cheaper than homelessness. And for me, and I think for many of you, it's this responsibility to foster youth. We didn't have to remove them and terminate the parental custody. That was a choice. And when we make that choice, we assume the full responsibility. So we need to fulfill this responsibility. I think you have actually the wrong version of the fact sheet up there, Simone. That last bullet point shouldn't be up. So we will replace that. That's the bottom one, the state general, the very last bullet point.
This one.
Yeah, but we'll that'll just take a second to put the other one up. But this is what we are being told. But again, it's a free country. We're all equal members of this coalition. If you feel like something else is more resonant, focus on that. If you're living in Monterey and you're like, I think Monterey's point of view is this, it's what is right for you because you live there. You know what young people are experiencing. These are only tools to be helpful. They're not anything more than that. So next slide, please. So those are those meetings, and we really do just want you to go forth and start to make those connections. Now, if you're a very coordinated person, you might say, oh, but they're going to be getting emails from more than one of us because, like, for example, people have multiple coalition members in their district. That's okay. That's kind of the point. This is, we have a very short window to get these letters in. So for example, by March 9th, we have to have the assembly one in. And so, this is how we need to proceed. We need to go forth. If they want to combine those meetings, they can, but this is their job. Their job is to hear from constituents. So we're not doing anything impolite or anything incorrect. We are, asking for the consideration of our elected officials to hear our priorities. And that's why they get elected. That's what they like to do. So I want to just say that for anyone who's worried, we're going to be stepping on toes. Far from it. We're actually exercising our voice in a democratic system. So next up is, so those are those calls, those Zoom calls. We will be distributing and we'll give you an email when that letter is ready. But even today, you can start scheduling those calls, start getting those on the books. So the next agenda item is we have some upcoming calls with the governor's office. We had an AHA, which is we need to open this up. We need to have a more geographic diversity. We need more racial and ethnic diversity. We need more age diversity. We want these calls to be a nice cross-section. And so we want more people involved in them, about 10. And so we have one with Angela Pontes coming up on the 21st. We're scheduling with James Hacker. We're also going to be scheduling with Housing and Community Development and DSS. And so these are calls where we can, make our case, hear some feedback, get some guidance. But these are really key calls, and we want to invite those of you who are interested in participating to kind of indicate that in the chat. Not everyone may be able to participate. What we're going to try and do is put that right collection of people, like a certain number of young people from their, based on the kind of focus and interest. But there's a lot of work to do. So if like, for example, you're not on that first one, you'll get on one of them. We definitely don't want to be exclusive, but there is a point of diminishing returns. If you start getting, like, we have 64 people on a call, then it becomes less intimate and kind of less, just changes the nature of the call. So it's really striking that balance. So those are the calls that are coming up. And I think with that, I want to take a moment to pause. I'm getting through a lot quickly to see if anyone has a question or a comment on those items before I turn it over to Simone. And I'll leave it to Simone to unmute people and everything.
And just real quick, we've gotten some questions in the chat. Someone asked what time are the calls. So on the 21st, probably should put this in the PowerPoint. On the 21st, that call with Angela Pontes is at 11:30, and it is a 15-minute call. So this is like you come early to the call to make sure you don't miss it. The other one is being scheduled. It's not scheduled yet. We can let people know when it's scheduled. Someone said, has the potential impact on local and other state systems been highlighted? Youth losing this funding will then be forced to access already inundated services in their communities. Absolute great point. Yes. So that is another, like when Amy was talking about these, like what are the really hard hitting talking points? That is one of them. And even though what we know, what really matters is like preventing youth from experiencing trauma, the reality is money is also something people listen to. And knowing that it costs more to serve someone after they're homeless than to prevent them from becoming homeless, there's a cost savings. So absolutely, that's a point. So we try to highlight both, like let's prevent trauma and let's talk about cost savings. That's something that definitely resonates, particularly with certain decision makers. So thank you for raising that. Absolutely raise that on these calls. And thanks people for putting in the chat if you can attend. Keep it coming. Even if we move on to another agenda item and you just haven't got a chance to put it in yet, feel free to add it. Andy is sort of jotting down people who are saying that they can come. But I think I want to open it up. Does anyone want to ask a question or make a comment, like unmute themselves? If you would like to, feel free. And I can't see everyone right now, so don't worry about raising your hand. We're not so big. Go ahead and you can just unmute yourself. All right.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. Just to clarify, these will be calls and not in person?
Correct. These are calls. I will talk in a few minutes about some in-person meetings we're doing in the district, some of the districts, but these will be probably Zoom calls. I mean, at least on the 21st, it is a Zoom call. All right, so I'm going to move us along and then we'll open it up at the end again if folks have anything else to share or ask. So the next thing we want to talk about are budget hearings. I know we've talked about this before and we've shared this list before. And we're going to keep sharing it because we want people to put little save the dates on their calendar if you can. But we want to really focus right now on the first couple hearings because they're soon. And in a couple slides, we'll get down to the business of actually sort of RSVPing. But I want to say something because I got an email right before this call and I didn't get a chance to reply to it, but someone said, you know, the meeting on the 13th or the hearing on the 13th, like it doesn't say child welfare. You know, is this the right hearing to be testifying at? Which is a valid question. We often try to find the most relevant hearing where on the agenda, either the department or the agency that administers the funding we're talking about is listed, or like the words child welfare or homelessness or something that's relevant to the programs we're talking about. In this case, those two most relevant hearings are the bolded ones, right? But they're not till April. And so we've gotten feedback from some folks in the legislature saying, you know, things will start to be wrapped up by then. Like people start making decisions, things start to happen early, and we don't want to miss the boat on making our voices heard in these hearings. So it's really important. So they've given us advice to go ahead and, like the one on the 13th is about anti-poverty child safety net programs. It's adjacent. It is adjacent enough, right? It's the right state department for SILP housing supplement. It might not like be spot on, but it's the right members of the legislature are present and we want them to hear that we don't want them to cut SILP housing supplement. So we are definitely wanting to attend these earlier hearings, even if they're not the perfect hearing to attend. So I wanted to clarify that for people who are looking at the agendas and having that same valid question. So I'm going to move on here. And you got, I know, an email from me, I think yesterday, with a link to indicate how many young people you serve and also to RSVP to the hearings. The reason we want to know how many young people you serve is because we want to be able to say this coalition collectively serves X number of young people, you know, between the ages of 18 and 25-ish. We know that it's sometimes for some organizations, it's like, but, and qualifiers, and, but I'm in an association, but do your best to get that number in that survey. And we have a thing in there saying like, you can add, it's this, but you know, here's the caveat. So, but please just, if you can get that information to us, and it becomes more powerful when we say we have a coalition of 100+ organizations and agencies, we can say, and they collectively serve, bam, big number. So I'm gonna then say, let's take a minute right now. Or let's say 30 seconds, because I know we're running out of time here. If you can go right now, and Andy's gonna put this little link in the chat. And if people can respond to this now, it's going to ask you 2 questions. How many young people do you serve? And can you attend those first 2 that you saw on the list, upcoming budget hearings? If you can't do it right now, it's okay. You can always visit it later. But please visit it soon. The first hearing is on the 20th, which is 5 days away. We know that there's a holiday weekend, so knowing this information by tomorrow would be fantastic if possible.
Well, I think one clarification I want to make is it's not necessarily if you can personally attend, can you commit to sending someone from your organization?
Thank you.
So we just for you to know that. And our goal is 25 people. We are trying to get 25 people to those hearings to, you know, to give public comment to protect these programs.
Thanks, Amy. And even if you can't attend when you see the start of the hearing time, public comment is almost always at the end. So if you're like, oh, I have a meeting that's during the first half an hour of the hearing, that's okay. You can still attend. So feel free to RSVP, and we can talk about those types of details at a later date. I'm going to move us on here. District meetings. So we've also talked about this before. These district meetings, I know we're talking about a lot of different calls and meetings. So we're trying to kind of share what the distinct differences between all these meetings, but if you have questions, let us know. These are specifically meetings that are with budget and budget subcommittee chairs that are on the issue areas. And those chairs happen to be obviously from specific districts. And so what these district meetings are is they're meetings in the assembly member or senator's district. So for example, we have one scheduled with Senator Menjivar, and it's in Van Nuys because that's part of the region that she represents, part of the district she represents. We have Assemblymember Quirk Silva's meeting in La Palma. And we have Assemblymember Corey Jackson's meeting in Moreno Valley. So these are places where obviously not everyone lives on this coalition, but some people live there or close to there. And so if you are in these areas and you said previously that you wanted to attend district meetings, I've either reached out to you or I will be reaching out to you to say, is this date and time going to work for you? Can you attend? And if you didn't RSVP previously and say, I want to be on these, shoot me an email. Let me know that you want to attend one of the meetings in these 6 areas. One thing to note is that these meetings are 2 things to note. One, these meetings are with the member. They're with the senator or the assembly member. And that's big. We often don't meet with the member. You meet with staff, which the staff are great. But this is a special thing to be meeting with the member. Second thing I want to mention is just before you probably saw that Nancy Skinner was the Senate budget chair. The assignment has changed with the change of leadership in the Senate. There were new assignments made, and one of the new assignments is that Senator Scott Wiener, who's in San Francisco, is the Senate budget chair. So that is a switch, but we'll still be trying to meet with Nancy Skinner. So we actually have 7 meetings that we're scheduling, and we've scheduled 3 so far. All right. Last couple things here are just really about media. First one, social media. Please keep posting. We're seeing the posts. It's exciting. Thank you so much for posting. It's a very low barrier thing we can all do, but it does get around, you know, it spreads. And so thank you for doing that. People repost, people see things, then they post. We've put how many impressions are here. And I think you can obviously understand that the more people, like it's a multiplier, right? The more people that post, it spreads like wildfire. So please just take a moment to post using the toolkit that there's Andy, if he hasn't already, we'll put the link to the toolkit in the Zoom chat. And then, you know, it's something you can do now. All right. Oops. What happened? Oh, I skipped something. Okay. So the last thing is that I think we've mentioned this via email, some of these. There's been articles that have been put out on these topics. So either the SILP housing supplement or the housing navigation and maintenance program, or both. There's been a piece by Carolyn Travis that I think we circulated back early February, a piece by Jan Judson from YOLO. And then there's a piece that EdSource ran really with the angle of college students and college student homelessness, and you know, featuring talking about both of these cuts. So just want to get these out here. I thank you, Andy, for putting these very long links in the chat. I wanted to provide the real links and not a tiny URL. But please share these widely, email them out, post them on social media. This is how we get the message out. If you're in conversation with one of your local representatives' offices, share one of these articles with them. Let them see this is in the media. People care about this. Okay, I know we only have a couple minutes left. I want to open it up. Please, if anyone has anything to share that they've been hearing or questions, please do.
So Simone, if there's a particular Senate meeting, one of the 3 meetings you already have in person scheduled that we think we can attend, should we just email you or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Well, and I think in some ways we kind of buried, I don't know if what's the opposite of it? The highest priority for these next 2 weeks are you reaching out to your Assembly and Senate member, asking the Chief of Staff for a meeting and ask them to join the budget letter. Like that is, you know, hopefully when we meet in 2 weeks, we'll report back and we will say we have covered. Everyone is going to be like, what in the heck is going on? I keep getting these emails from the child welfare advocates, and they keep on telling me to join this letter. And I think we really can achieve that. There's a lot of different activities, but in terms of a lot of them are complementary. The core one for the next 2 weeks are really this outreach that is completely initiated by you, not us. It's putting that sample email into an email format, emailing that Chief of Staff, and asking for that meeting.
Amy, I'm just going to unmute Mercedes. Mercedes, did you want to say something?
Really quickly, that letter is coming from Assemblymember Ting's office. Is that correct?
That's correct. Oh, does somebody else want to try talking? Okay, it's gone. Yes, Assemblymember Ting is working on a letter. It just has to be finalized, and then we can circulate it that people can use to ask their local assembly members to sign on. And then we are making a request to Senator Durazo, and we hope that she does the same. And then when that letter is finalized, we would do the same. So it would be something to ask of senators and then of assembly members to get on the respective letter. And that sends the message that they are prioritizing this. And, you know, the idea is getting the legislature as a whole to say to the governor's office, this is our priority.
Okay, so we should be reaching out to both assembly members and senators and just referencing the letter, even though it's not finished yet.
I think I would just if you use the language in the request, it says to discuss the cuts. And then by the time you have the meeting, we'll have the letter. And then in the meeting, you'll say, we have this letter. Will you sign on to it? I know we're doing everything as sort of like, right, we're building it as we're, what is it? You're building it as you're flying it, but we got to keep up the pace because it's at a certain point, it'll be too late. These things move quickly. So that's why we're sort of launching before we have everything, all of the ducks in the row.
Well, in some ways, they're almost treating this as like a budget request, you know, which is, you know, it's like, why is it a budget request? The governor's proposal is just a proposal. We're not actually making a request. These programs are in state law, but yet it feels like that's kind of what that we need to have our official, kind of stake in the ground in these budget subcommittees. And so the deadline for the assembly side. So in some ways, why that's necessary, I'm not totally clear, but it makes sense for that process. And so we need to follow the rules that have been set forth for us.
Well, I know we've reached 2:30, but I know Julie,
Yeah.
Yeah, Julie, if you, and I know that some people might have to jump off, but we'll stay on. So whoever can stay on, Julie, do you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, just real quick. In looking at the spreadsheet, there's, multiple organizations that have the same district person. Do we want to reach out to them separately to get, how do we want to do that?
Go ahead, Amy, if you're.
Oh, no, go ahead, Simone.
Well, I was gonna say, I think either works. Like them receiving multiple requests about the same issue is good because they're like, wow, there's a lot of people that care about this. But also if you want, if it makes sense to join forces with another organization and do that together, that's fine too. Amy, were you gonna answer differently than that?
Yeah, I think the thing is to get the meetings next week. That's when we really want the meetings to be held. And again, that might seem like if you're in the legislature, that's what they do full time, is just meet with people. So it's not uncommon. They'll have 10, 15, 20 of these meetings a day. So it's like, wow, next week. But that's perfectly possible. So because we need them, they need to first get the information the first time. They have to take it to their boss. Then they have to get back to you, maybe with some questions, might have to go to their boss again. Then, so even if you meet next week, there's still like a process. So, I would say whatever, I'd say, we have who represents those organizations if you want to coordinate, but don't feel like you have to. Like I said, you won't be irritating them. They'll just be like, wow, I'm hearing from a lot of different people about this. This must be important.
Okay, thank you. I got to jump to another meeting. Thanks for everything.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining and for joining each week. We appreciate you and we are so glad to be doing this together. And please reach out if you have any questions. I know it's a lot of information, so just shoot me an email or give me a call if you have questions, and we will get those letters to people, and anything else that we've sort of promised you today, we'll follow up. All right.
Simone, can you stay on a moment for those of us who can?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What's going on, Mara?
I'm just trying to recap. Well, Julie asked my first question, but
Okay.
I'm looking at these sheets. Okay, so you want us to look at, you've already done all this amazing legwork. So look at the assembly person that connects to our org,
Mhm.
right?
Correct.
Okay, I have that sheet open. And then we're saying, let me go back to that. Then we are emailing that person and saying, I'm a constituent of assembly member so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. So the meeting is a phone call?
There's usually a Zoom, usually nowadays it's a Zoom call.
Or a Zoom? Okay, so you're not
Yeah.
asking for in-person.
No, I mean, you could do an in-person meeting or you could do a phone call. I mean, it's sort of whatever they'll give you, frankly. But I think, the most common thing is to have nowadays is to do a Zoom call with them. Like they're pretty used to that.
Good. And then the last link I opened was ask the senator assembly member. We're asking them to add their name to the sign-on letter. That's the one that's coming.
Yes,
Right.
So that's the whole point of the meeting, is like, this is so important. We use the points in our fact sheet, your fact sheet. And then we say, will you, wait, we're asking the state, we're asking the other legislators to sign on to the letter to Ting.
So Assemblymember Ting's going to have a letter that says, it's going to be to the budget chairs of the legislature and likely the governor, saying, this is important to me. will my fellow, I would, and he's wanting his fellow assembly members to join in and say, hey, this is important to me too. So it's a letter where they will be listed, much like our coalition letter of signatories.
Right.
But it'll be
Okay,
all
so
assembly
I
members.
got it. So reach out, just say, use your script. Can you meet with me? If they meet with me, use the facts and say, hopefully I've done a great sales job. Can we count you in when Ting's got his letter to send to the decision makers, that you'll add your name and say it's important to you?
You got it. And I'm happy to talk offline. I know this is a lot in a short period of time. And if anyone wants to if they get their meeting and they're like, can we check in before the meeting? Absolutely. So let me know.
Let's get the meeting first. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there some fancy way, because I'm not good with Google Docs, to tell, per Julie's question, what other, or like to filter on the doc, who else is, for example, for public counsel?
We actually have that. We have all the coalitions. We can paste that in. But again, the best is the enemy of the good. Like, I think
So
sometimes
just send the email. Don't worry about it being too many.
don't worry about it. Like I said, if it takes one day to do that, that's one day too long.
All
You
right,
know,
I'll just do it right
it's-
now.
yeah.
And it's good
It's,
to get a lot
but we
of-
will add that tab in because public counsel is in Senator Durazo's district. There are 8 coalition members in that district. But the best case scenario, she gets 8 emails about this. It's like, man, I better get on it. But I do think, we're not doing anything wrong. By asking for these meetings. But we will add that tab so you can see exactly who's in each district.
Okay, and Simone, are you trying to minimize, like the meeting I could do potentially looks like March 22nd in Van Nuys. Are you trying to minimize how many coalition members go to that? Because I'm not, I'd step up to help, but if you're like, oh, we only need a few, and you say, Mara, we got other people that make more sense.
No, it's good to know that, because what I'll do is I'm doing like a balancing act of like how many people can make it. And then, there, like you say, there is a point where it is too many people, like they won't have a room to accommodate us. Right. But I'll let you know if we get there. I mean, so don't hold back. If you can attend, let me know. And
Okay, and someone in the chat, yes, Amy's saying one to the assembly and one to the senator. I didn't realize there were a
The
lot of
process
people.
is are different. I mean, the assembly does its work, the Senate does its work. And so they collaborate, but they also have different priorities sometimes. They're 2 different legislative bodies. So we do need a letter for each of those houses.
Gotcha.
I think also one thing I just want to say, people, every person you meet with voted for the SILP supplement and voted for housing navigation. They are on the record as supporting these things. And so, they've already put their official stamp on it. The question is, are we going to let the administration claw these things back and undo the policy that they did?
Right. I hear you. Okay, thanks, my friends. Your leadership is amazing and much appreciated. Let's do this.
thanks, Mara.
Okay, take care.
Everyone, did anybody else have thoughts or questions that they wanted to share that's still on? Okay, feel free to email me or call if anyone has any other questions. Bye.
Excellent.